Not sure if we're recording yet, but I do have a subject. Why the rich hate Vanlifers. Why a lot of America is okay with your freedoms being taken away. And why am I bringing this up? I see more and more of the same things they did in Western Washington, Oregon, and everywhere else happening everywhere else now. You know, the interior lands where you used to be able to go camping for decades. You could go camping in these areas, and now they're like, well, we're bulldozing the roads, we're taking away this, we're taking away that. And we're making it to where the beautiful places you used to enjoy, you're not allowed to be there unless you pay a fee. Why do the rich hate Vanlifers? I'm going to explain. This is Freedom Phil, like, subscribe, let's get into it. Hey, turn up the video speed. Why do I say that? Because you watch videos faster. Why wouldn't you? You should be watching this at least at 1.5 to 1.75, something maybe even higher if you're intelligent. Let's get into it. By the way, always sub horn. The reality of it is that you are not people to a lot of the system. You are livestock. You are a managed crop. You're a voting base. You're workers or your welfare class. You're used as paid agitators to some degree, depending on what you are. Your job is to go out there and work from 16 to 66. And hopefully, if the system does it right, they feed you bad food, hard life, stress, and you drop dead before you ever collect one dime of Social Security. Social Security is a beautiful scam as well. Hell, you take all these people's money. If you let them take that money, that what they paid in plus what their employer put in, and they invested it, they'd have 8 times what you're going to get on Social Security. That would actually be legacy wealth you could pass down. Oh shit, legacy wealth. That means the next generation could have it better. Don't want that. You go to these cities and you see the cost of rent, the cost of utilities, the cost of everything. And I've said it for a while, I'll say it now and I'll say it again. There should be a men's house and a women's house with storage unit size apartments, and in a public area, you know, a public gym with the showers and the stuff, and then a public kitchen, you know, bathrooms on every level, but you know, you have to walk down the hallway to get to it. An affordable place where people in the cities can live. Cheap utilities, all this. And by the way, one of the rules would be you need to show you're making progress in your life. Otherwise, get the fuck out. We're not just having derelicts live here. We want to see that you're actually getting money saved up to where you could go and put a fat down payment on a house, or even better, go to the Midwest and just pay cash for a house. So you're an owner, progressing towards being an owner. Now you go and look through the course of the life of the scam that was the public school system, all the useless crap they taught you there. Then on top of that, then told you to go to 4 to 6 years of school when you could have learned a trade or something else. You could have been ready to roll at 16 if they just got rid of all the extra crap in the public school system. They teach you, like, no offense, I love history. History is pretty fucking useless. Music, I like music, but great musicians will rise or fall based on their own merits. You know, all this extra crap, art classes and all this crap, it's all just wasted time, money, and effort. And by the way, who gets rich off that? Well, the people in the system, the people that work the system. Then after all the debt they put onto you, so you go to college and all that crap, then you got to go buy a house, an overinflated price of a house, housing costs. You know, you could directly say that housing costs in these cities is why there's such a problem in these cities. That why are there so many people living in vehicles and vans and whatnot in the cities? It's because they can't fucking afford a normal lifestyle. Some of them are drug addicts as well. And then you have the situation where it's a tale of two cities of poverty, a tale of two poverties. You have the working poor that are barely getting by, and hopefully they get little food stamps and maybe a free cell phone via the government, and some sort of way to make it alleviate the stress of their life. And then you got the absolute subsidized, whether it's the guys that fake crazy or the women who just crank out children to get on the system. The working class poor have to compete against those poor, including the illegals that roll in and then are competing for the same apartments, same this, same that, same Section 8 if she cranks out a kid. Meanwhile, her boyfriend, husband, whatever, is not officially there, but working under the table or doing whatever. So that's all profit for them, with the exception of the gas taxes and the sales taxes they pay. Yeah. You, regular working class person, are supposed to compete against that. Now, mind you, you should probably have a plan for your life. Live as minimalistically as you can. Live as cheap as possible. Get a trade. Drive a truck. Do whatever while they're still trucking. By the way, a handful of years, maybe 5, 10, 15 years, we'll probably have automated vehicles. But you are supposed to compete with you make let's say you make $2,000-3,000 a month. Well, the rent is $3,000 in the city for this little studio apartment. Boy, howdy, they're really living there. So you start to see why people go over to van life, even in the cities. It's partially an act of desperation. Most people didn't say, man, I want to live in a fucking Winnebago. I want to live in the Cousin Eddie Winnebago on the side of the street next to the warehouse district that I work in. It's the diminishing returns of a lot of these cities. Now, where does this come to the wildlands? The smart people realize, the people that aren't fucking drug addicts and shit. The drug addicts will stay in the cities. Not to say there aren't drug addicts in the woods, but the drug addicts generally stay where it's close to the food banks, the soup kitchens, the resources, if they happen to bum change, wherever they happen to do that at. They got their handful of buddies around, hang out, get wherever they can get free Wi-Fi or whatever. They stick around those places. The people that actually have their act together, they got an old van or an RV, or maybe they got a newer van. I've seen cases where people sell their house because they're like, well, after paying all my utilities and my bills, I can barely afford to eat if I stay here. And what am I doing with the rest of my life? And so their attitude is they get rid of their house, get themselves a decent Sprinter van or something like that, have it built up inside, have the solar. And all they want to do as old people, and even some of the young people, is they just want to go and, I'm here for a couple weeks, and then I move south. And they're like, why does this piss off the rich so much? Because you're not supposed to be able to go out there and enjoy your life. That's for them. They're the investor class. They don't teach you how to be part of the investor class. They actively try to prevent you from becoming the investor class. They sell you a lifestyle of basically buying cars, clothes, and crap, and apartments and stuff you can't afford for most of your life. They don't teach you about investing whatsoever because they don't want you investing. They don't ever want you leaving your good little cubicle life. So when you're out there as an old person, a young person, someone living efficiently, you can live off anywhere from $200 to $300 a month as a van lifer. I know this because I've done it. Maybe you hit up food banks occasionally. You should never feel bad about going to a food bank. You know why? Because the farmer got a tax deduction for all of his goddamn business. Then the truck driver that moved it got a tax deduction. Then the processor that puts it into a can or freezes it got a tax deduction for all of their business. Then truck taking it to a DC, then also tax deduction. DC gets a tax deduction. And then the grocery store gets a huge tax deduction for giving away that food as food versus the small tax deduction for the dumpster. So they're writing off their losses, and you're supposed to feel bad about getting some free food that you pay taxes for your whole time. No, never feel bad about getting some free food. You have a situation where some of these old people out there, they can't afford what was supposed to be a normal life. And even worse than that, you see places where you buy a piece of land, and then the state government says, you can't do one of those drop little sheds. Nope. You got to get a permit. You got to do this. You got to do that. You can't put a drop shed there. You can't put a drop shed and then finish it out. Why is that? Because there's probably some business that makes, modular homes or whatever. There's probably somebody who loses money if you can affordably live. So it comes back, do I really own this property? What's ironic about it? There's places where you could park an RV and nobody would question it. But if you bring in a drop shed, you might live like a normal fucking person. It'll be built like an RV. You've got your solar power, you got your tankless water heater, maybe build a little sunroom off the side. Maybe do a solar water heater. Use a composting toilet. Because let me run this one for you. Composting toilet, bad. But having giant tank that has to be pumped out every so many years, good. It's fucking retarded. They don't want you having freedom, and they don't want you having an affordable affordable lifestyle. And what ticks me off the most about this, it was the generation that had the most freedom, realistically, the boomers and some of the Gen Xers. These are the people who all hippy-dippy, let's do the drugs, free sex, men and women getting together, having a good time. These are the people that are slamming the door on you consistently, because it's rich boomers kicking out everyone else, along with a lot of Gen X. And by the way, the millennials will do the same fucking thing. It's the rich people saying, hey, I paid multiple millions of dollars for this lakefront property. You shouldn't even be allowed to canoe on this lake. It's a public lake. You should have to pay a fee to park here so you can launch your boat. Did you pay to get into here? So now our public parks are gated communities. Our state parks, our campgrounds. So when people are out there living out in the wildlands for free, we've got to believe that the fucking bureaucrats hate that shit. You're supposed to pay a fee for that. And so you get, like, out on the West Coast, they had this thing called the Discovery Pass. It probably still exists. It used to be like $30 a year. Okay, so I pay my toll to the system so you won't harass me when I'm parked next to a river that we've been parking next to. We never leave any trash. We even clean up other people's trash because we like this place. So you won't come up and harass us. Do you have your Discovery Pass? That's not enough. Then they go out there and they say, well, you know that place, that bunker you used to park up on top of? Because you could literally drive on top of the bunker. And you look out at the Strait of Juan de Fuca and across the great waters out there, you can see Vancouver Island. And at night, you can see the beautiful lights of Victoria and maybe Souk over here. I believe it was Souk. You can't be there. And they'll make up some lame ass excuse. Well, there's drug dealers. I'm like, are you kidding me? Drug dealers? You realize that the water is down this massive cliff a mile away. Like this. No. This is about power. That's all it's about. It's about power. I could understand if you were saying down at the boat launch down at Freshwater Bay. Yeah, sure. Maybe there's some guy with a jet ski. More likely they'd come up one of the areas that you can't really see from there, and they would, have some guy with rappelling gear off of one of the bluffs of the cliffs just bring the stuff up that way. Back when people used to have these overpowered jet skis that could go across the whole strait, which is like, I think 16 miles. And they have these overpowered jet skis, and now they'd be moving fentanyl. So it's like a little backpack, if it even really still happens. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for busting the fentanyl people. I am. But like kicking all the people, the normal people out from the logging roads, the wildlands and the desert. No, that's the rich telling you, you need to get back on the plantation. You need to work yourself into an early grave. Pay your fair share. Meanwhile, those same rich people are claiming everything on deductions to a sick level. Like, for those that don't know what I'm talking about, look up a 1031 exchange. Look up when it comes to real estate, 1031 exchange. You can basically pass the debts and the deductions and the taxes onto the next property as long as you buy within 2 months. And then what happens is that you can keep on passing this debt your whole life. What happens when you die? Do your kids have to pay? Nope. Your tax deductions and debt die with you. Your kids get all the assets. Multi-generational wealth. Same reason. Why do they want Social Security? Because they don't want you investing your own money. 8 times the results if you had just put it in the S&P or the Dow Jones. 8 times. And it would have been legacy wealth you could have passed down. The rich don't want you living a quality life. They want you living good enough not to riot, but always needing more. Slowly inflating the dollar. And so we got the poor that are subsidized against the working poor. And we print money to pay off all the bills. And then we pass on the inflation onto everybody. And do you think that affects the 1%? Oh, hell no, it doesn't. It doesn't affect them at all. They're fine. What? Like, things cost double what they used to? They have 10 times the money they need for it. What do they care? Yeah. They don't want you camping for free because you're living a quality life at a low rate. And their attitude is, you don't deserve that. You don't deserve to be there. That's the forest lands and the DNR, the BLM, that's their private playground. You're just supposed to pay for it. But hey. Freedom Phil, like, subscribe. Y'all take it easy. Peace.